Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to make sure you know all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on all new episodes of Wade's World, Boob Windows and Long Boxes, our Hard R movie reviews, and so much more, all completely uncensored. Access starts for as little as $1 a month, full videos when you pledge $3 a month. Check us out at the link in all of our show notes, or just go straight to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
Recording has started. Hear that sound? That's the sound of a super connection being made. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is the blue-eyed bomber from the Burg of Pits,
Phil Man Perich.
That's the man, and this is Super Connectivity. But what if it wasn't, Phil?
Ooh.
What if this was regular connectivity, or super attachment? What if we had chosen a different phrase
to
describe this whole series? And that's what we're getting at, because today we are talking about the latest, most important thing the Disney machine has ever created within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's right, we're talking What If? What if, Phil? What if T'Challa had been Star-Lord? Now, I heard what you said. That doesn't make any sense. That would mean that T'Challa's mom was with Ego, and, you know.
I don't know. We haven't seen the episode yet. Maybe his father isn't Ego.
Well, but then how's he? It's like, I'm just saying, like, is he just picking up other random kids? And what is the story here, Morning Glory? I don't know. We don't know that yet. We don't know what the crossover between Captain Carter and Doctor Strange will be, because you know who wasn't in this episode this week, Phil?
Who?
Doctor Strange.
Wow, yeah.
Yes. But let's talk about this week's episode of What If. Or do you want to talk about What If in general? Because you know what? We said we're going to talk about What If in general, the history and the artistry of the infinite possibilities of the Marvel Universe that started way back in, I want to say, 1977 with What If #1, What If Spider-Man had joined the Fantastic Four? Good issue, though. One of my favorites.
I don't know. What do you think? Should we start with that, or should we do the episode?
Well, I mean, you know, I think there's so much to say about both, but we can start with this episode and then talk about what spawned it. I mean, you know, how many favorite what ifs do you have? Because I have literally 97. So
me too. Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of what ifs to talk about, but I don't know how much I want to say about each one.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, most of mine are from that first run. The later ones are okay, and I know that what they're doing is from one of the later ones, which we'll talk about. So let's talk about the episode first, because that's going to lead into what I'm going to talk about when they did a reboot of What If a few years ago, where they tried to create a super connected What If universe, which is what I think they're doing here tonight. So, this episode, What If Peggy Carter got the Super Soldier Serum instead of Steve Rogers? It is interesting because I think one of the things this universe has is something I think a lot of universes have. A lot of What If universes have, which is sort of a difference that seems subtle. But when you look at everything else that occurs in this universe, you have to realize that I think things were a lot more different than we realize. Like, the big thing that stands out to us is that Peggy Carter was Captain Carter in this, and not, you know, Steve Rogers was Captain America. That in this, we have, so among the many differences, we have Red Skull being much more obsessed with the occult Hydra than the scientific Hydra. Well, those are, interestingly enough, the guys that were trying to contact the Hive in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which we'll get to in a minute, because there is another one of these things in this episode that's going to make you say, oh, see, that's them saying, F you, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we don't like you guys. And it's like, why be mean? That's my take on it. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, I didn't even know we were fighting, but apparently you won. So, okay, yeah. It's like, I'm not one to ever say Feige is petty, but there's like moments where you go, is Feige just being petty at this point? Where it's like, but I actually think that it's explainable. And there is something else I want to get to at the very end. Some secret lore just revealed that maybe means something else, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, yeah, this Red Skull is very different. And I wonder if that's because he doesn't have, what's his name, Arnim Zola with him at this point. And there seems to be like a couple of things that are notably different. Number one is Peggy's not going on any dang USO tour. Mm-hmm. And that's like so within these whole things you have, so the original thing is Peggy decides she's going to stay on the floor. She's not going to go up into the booth. And then everyone's like, well, she's not going to the booth, I'm not going. So everyone stays on the floor. No one goes up to the booth. And that means that the guy who was going to be in the booth before he sets off the bomb say, well, I can't go in the booth now and look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Since the lady stayed down here, we all got to stay down here, So at which point you can kind of imagine that maybe what's his name, Erskine said, could all of you please just go to the damn booth? Really, this is a scientific experiment I'm doing. I don't need you here. Go away, you freaking people. That's why I said to her, go to the booth, okay? Nobody down here, please. But that also causes the guy to set the bomb off earlier. Mm-hmm. Since he's down there, because before he sets the bomb off, after Steve is been fully injected, this time he sets it off before. And he just said, well, I'll just set it off now, I'll get my stuff, and I'll run. And that was just obviously a bad choice. Because even though he sets off the bomb, he doesn't damage anything. He shoots Erskine, grabs a little bit of formula, only to get shot by Peggy. After he gets shot, after Steve tries to step up to him, because he's stupid, It's like, oh, fight, yeah. It's like, you are still a 98-pound weakling. I know you're all full of fight, Steve Rogers. But the whole idea, I'm going to jump out of it kind of goes to this idea that, were you kind of suicidal, Steve Rogers?
He's throwing himself on that grenade, man. If he has to die, fine. But that guy's not getting out of there with that serum.
Well, no. It's like, but the fact of the matter is, he's in a room with trained soldiers. Peggy Carter is literally right there, who he knows is a trained soldier. He just, his ego. He's got too much ego. How did this man get selected when he has that much ego? But I guess a little ego is okay, as we'll see next episode with T'Challa in Guardians of the Galaxy. See, I connect it all. I super connected, Phil.
Ooh.
Maybe in that universe, what's his name? Yondu isn't picking up Ego's kids. He's just down on Earth and meets with crazy little,
maybe
a crazy little ninja kids. Yeah, says, hey, little crazy Wakandan kids, you gotta have vibranium around here. Says, oh yes, we have tons of it. Mm-hmm. And it's, steals a bunch of vibranium, heads off with T'Challa into the cosmos. Shows him the universe. It could be cool. But in this one, Cap gets shot, non-fatal shot, because apparently this guy was not a good shot. Because it's like, how you shoot a 98-pound Steve Rogers and not make it a killing shot, I don't know. But I guess he just goes to shoot him, and he's like, I guess he's just like, get out of my... He's feeling empathy. This Nazi felt empathy for just pathetic Steve Rogers.
Or Steve Rogers was so skinny, it was hard to hit him.
He was too small a target. No, this should have been an organ sear. What? How do you not have an organ sear? How are your kidneys so atrophied? But anyway. So he goes down. Peggy, of course, shoots the guy. So none of and it's weird because, again, in the movie, there was a full vial that was left, but Peggy puts the last vial in the machine. So arguably a vial that shouldn't have been in the machine gets put in the machine, so maybe she gets a little extra Super Soldier Serum. I don't know. I don't know if there's diminishing returns on this or what, or there was just a little bit left. There was like not the full dose, but somehow she got the full dose. There's something, little things that are a little bit different because I guess they had to recalibrate, maybe because the other machines got blown up earlier. That the thing that controlled how much Super Soldier Serum you got was a little off. It all goes into Peggy. They do take the vials, and this is another interesting thing because people who are already doing the review say, look at how many vials of blood they got. That's got to be a lot of blood. But if you think about it, that's probably way less blood than they got out of Steve. Because when Steve was on the USO tour with, in my headcanon, with Betsy Ross, his handler, and they're, shipping him around, seeing what happens, I'm sure they were taking blood on a weekly basis. So they were probably getting a lot more blood over a longer time than they got out of that one shot of Peggy, because Peggy goes right into the field. She goes into the field early because she goes and gets the Tesseract before it goes to the Red Skull. And we even seem to get the implication here that she gets the blood before it gets, or she gets not the blood, but the Tesseract before it gets to the Red Skull at his castle, which they're calling Le Crec, or De Crec. I forget if it was the D or the L. But anyway, gets it from, and it looks like he's actually going to Berlin because you see the little Olympic Stadium stuff there. And again, these little subtle things that kind of suggest that, in this universe, it actually was going to go to Hitler so that he could see, he goes, fancy, 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 as Hitler likes to do. And then they take it to the skull and he does what he wants with it. But in this one, again, it gets diverted. So, slightly different, slightly askew. And this goes to what I'm saying about like the butterfly effect, that yes, something occurred that makes Peggy stay, but all of the things that went into making Peggy stay probably affected many, 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 many other things along the line that had other choices as well. But the big thing that Uatu, or in this case, Eternity, because they kind of also make Uatu into Eternity in this, also gets misseen or misunderstood. So it's interesting, in my opinion, what they're doing. So, yeah.
And I mean, the big change, I think, is Hydra doesn't get their hands on Bucky.
No, Hydra does not get their hands on Bucky, and that opens up another door, which we're going to get to when we get to the end. Because that's the thing. It's like, this is my thing. I think every episode we see after this is going to be set in the Carterverse. Even when they go back before Carter shows up at the start of Avengers.
Oh, yeah.
I think everything else is going to be set in that Carterverse universe. Where there was no Rise of the Red Skull, where the U.S. had the Tesseract. Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, just pause for a second.
Really can't.
Yes, hello?
All right. While Charlie Esser takes a phone call. No, I thought the episode was really good. Yeah, there's just, what do I say? Yeah, the whole thing is, yeah. Spoilers, kids. Yeah, when Hydra didn't get their hands on Bucky, I thought, when they took the, what do they call it? The Nazi Stomper or whatever, the Hydra Stomper or whatever, that they were going to get their hands on Steve, and Steve was going to become the Winter Soldier or some version of that. Hold on. He's back. Whoa.
The idea of Steve becoming a Winter Soldier, I mean, he's not much of a soldier to winterize.
That, or like, I didn't know if they were going to, like, do some kind of weird cyborg thing with him in that armor or something, something.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, I liked what they did instead, is what I'll say.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the entire idea of them just basically, because what they wanted was the Tesseract. And for what it's worth, that's what they always wanted. They always wanted the Tesseract.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't never even get a moment where Peggy actually confronts the Red Skull in this. It's like by the time we meet the Red Skull and Peggy in the same room, Red Skull has already called forth what I think is Shumagorath and gets basically crushed by it. Mm-hmm. So there's no grand, trip to Vormir in this universe for the Red Skull. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like everything has changed, and it had changed before this moment. That's the thing. Is like this was already a universe. So, like for example, when we talk about like the TVA, which is what is very informative on this, the TVA's whole purpose was to find those universes where something small led to the creation of a Nathaniel Richards or someone who would become a Kang in the 31st century. Mm. And everything prior to that moment is where which really shows you that the entire universe runs until Kang creates his time machine. Which is something else we're going to get to in a few moments, because that goes right back to what ifs in a very subtle way, if you read the books. But this is so much. In the whole structure of what they've created, they have created a universe where Peggy Carter becomes the Captain Carter. Again, they never call her like Captain England or Captain Britain.
I know. I wonder if they're saving that name, Captain Britain.
Well, but that's the other thing. I think they're eventually going to open up that Captain Britain core.
Yeah,
because there is a thing she grabs while she's in the castle of the Kraken. That doesn't that sword look like maybe that has been stabbed into a stone? In fact, she stabs it into the stone floor at one point. Mm-hmm. Kind of suggesting that, that might be Excalibur. And that sword, which probably has its own extra-dimensional energy, is going to be part of the Captain Britain core. That this is going to be what opens portals for her and lets her build the Captain Britain Corps. Well, yeah, that was Spider UK. He was part of the Captain Britain Corps. And he may be in No Way Home, but we have no idea. Because there were no trailers for No Way Home, so we have no idea what's going to happen. But maybe Spider UK will be in there. Maybe the Captain Britain Corps will be there. And maybe Hallie Atwell as Captain Britain. The leader of the MCU Captain Britain Corps will be there. Yes, Tristan, do you have a point you want to add?
Just since you started talking about Homecoming, I don't think we'll have alternate universes. I think that'll just be an end credit scene where it shows that he will be in a
Multiverse of Madness. That's
I meant Into the Spider-Verse 2.
Oh, well. Oh, you mean they'll have Tobey Maguire in Into the Spider-Verse 2, doubling your pleasure in the whole Spider-Verse universe. Yeah. So Tristan's theory is at the end credits of No Way Home, there's going to be a callback to Into the Spider-Verse 2, which they are also working on. Mm-hmm. So there's some possibilities for things you might see in the future. But, to me, that's the thing. That's why they are not showing No Way Home. That's why they are holding back certain things.
Oh, there's so much stuff in that movie.
Yeah.
I think they're afraid to show anything.
Oh, exactly. I think that basically, they're waiting for because I think Shang-Chi's going to have a bunch of stuff. I think we're going to get so much data dumps in the next, few months.
And again, too, the Spider No Way Home is until December. I mean, so we still have the rest of August, all of September, October, November, too. Yeah, and like half of December, so.
Yeah, because I do think that Marvel still has a lot of control on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think they're like, no, we don't want you to show anything until we tell you to. Mm-hmm. Because we're letting you be a part of the show. That means you've got to listen to Feige. And you've got to follow the rules, because we've got a whole thing we're building here. You know, and within this structure, we have the idea that, man, I keep on blinking out. Including the idea that, you know, we are building this universe that is going to be expansive beyond one universe. And how we're going to deal with things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like the Netflixiverse, like all of these pieces are going to get answered in these later things, but we don't even want to hint at them until we're ready for the reveal, because we need to have these reveals be blockbuster. And if it gets out beforehand, if we say, oh yeah, you know, Chloe Bennett is back at Marvel, back in the MCU for a reason, don't ask. Mm-hmm. You know, that's going to cause problems. But if suddenly Chloe Bennett says, you know, I know you want to extend my contract with Powerpuff Girls for this pilot that you didn't get right the first time, yeah, I got to say no. And for reasons. Don't ask the reasons, but there are clearly reasons. Now, maybe it's just, you know, the creative differences. And that first script was good, but maybe not as good as it should have been. And really, she doesn't write these scripts, and she doesn't think she's going to do a second bite at the apple. Or maybe there's something deeper in it. But along those lines, you know, within the Hydra structure and this universe, the images that we see on the Tonsberg Church are notably different, because the original Tonsberg Church showed Yggdrasil, not a Tesseract opening up a gateway to Shimmer-Gorath. So again, there are these little things that are clearly meant to be different.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got me thinking, because you said, you know, now there's no Red Skull in Vormir. Because I was like, I think we're getting an episode with Marvel Zombies. I'm like, how do we get that from the MCU? Mm-hmm. Because I was thinking today, oh, what if Thanos does like a bad snap? What if Thanos tries to snap with 5 stones instead of 6, and instead of dusting everyone, he turns half the universe into zombies?
Ooh, that's an interesting theory. Now, to be fair, just because there's no Red Skull on Vormir doesn't mean there's no one.
Yeah.
Because that was something I was thinking about. So, when you must sacrifice something, what is there when you arrive? Because here's the thing. Because we do see Thanos, because we do see Red Skull there when Thanos arrives. Mm-hmm. And we do see Red Skull there when Hawkeye, although that's another timeline. So maybe that's what it is. It's like, maybe what happens is when you come to that universe in that timeline and you make that sacrifice, that releases the previous Guardian, but the new Guardian rises and they become the Guardian of the soul of Vormir. So, so that if you were in that universe and Thanos came there, he would have seen Gamora, which would have been very confusing to him.
So you're saying
would have seen Scarlet Witch. But if you were to go there now in the MCU, you would meet Gamora.
Or Black Widow.
No, because that's in the alternate universe.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the alternate timeline created by going back in time, because every time you go back in time, you create a timeline, and that is the timeline which has no Thanos in it, because he came back to the past and got snapped.
Yep.
So, there are these layers upon layers upon layers of what is the time travel that's supposed to happen.
I mean, I don't know if it would be boring, but that's one of the what ifs they should do, is like what happened in that timeline once Thanos disappeared, you know, because he wasn't around the snap or anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, it would be great. And honestly, the thing is that's not a what if. That is a what was.
Mm.
And the idea is when Thanos leaves that universe continues on without a Thanos, without a snap. And maybe in that universe without a snap, there never is a Franklin Richards, because the things that led up to the creation of a Reed Richards and a Susan Richards and a bunch of baby Richardses never leads to a Nathaniel Richards in the year 3000. You know, because within that idea, my actual theory on the origin of Kang is that he is actually descendant of Valeria Richards, which is what gets you that relationship with Doom.
Yeah.
Because Doom has no natural offspring except for that kid with Morgan Le Fay in an alternate timeline. Although she does exist in the main Marvel Universe, I think, in some versions. It's very confusing.
I mean, without Thanos, maybe we get a second Civil War, because, I mean, there's no reason, if Thanos isn't around, there's no reason for the two sides to come back together, you know, all the heroes to come back together.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Or maybe that Civil War just continues forever. They're constantly being chased by
Ross.
Ross eventually becomes the Red Hulk and imprisons Tony and all the others, and then he's not satisfied, and eventually he tries to take over the world because he is the Red Hulk. And
I mean, that's the great thing about making this animated. I mean, they can basically do whatever they want. You know, they don't have to worry about a special effects budget and.
Well, exactly. I mean, that is the thing, is that no matter what they do, there's always more to do.
Oh yeah. And
I think that is what really sells the film and sells the show and makes it really good, is that there is a lot of things they can build from here that they, may or may not do. Because I think that's also part of the problem of it. There's so many possible things they could do, and I think that so much of it will never get done. Because, as I was saying to somebody earlier, I have learned to trust the writers at Marvel. Which is this idea that, I had my ideas of what this show would be. We did not get that. It was not what I got. I was not expecting Captain Carter to come to the future. I was not expecting anything like that. I was actually expecting a whole thing at the end, sort of post-war, where she meets young Rebecca Barnes, Bucky's little sister. Because we know that Bucky has a kid sister. So I was waiting for that little tidbit there. But I actually think when we get to the next episode of this, which will be in this what if universe of Peggy Carter or Peggy Carter becoming Captain America, that's where we're going to get Rebecca Barnes. Because I think when we get to our Avengers episode of this, because I think it's 6 episodes, or is it 9 episodes?
No, it's 9.
9. So I think after the first 6 episodes, that's when we start to build our... Because it's going to seem like, it's a bunch of non-connected episodes, because every episode is going to say, what if T'Challa was this? What if Spider-Man was that? And then we're going to get, actually, these are all connected. This is all this same universe. And now, Peggy Carter coming into Project Pegasus, where Selvig is absent. And why is Selvig absent? Because this is the universe where Thor became Party Thor. Whatever that means. That Thor never gets banished to Earth. That Thor never gets the separation from Loki. Loki maybe gets to be the hero in this universe.
Well, yeah, I think in the 3rd episode, Loki comes to Earth, isn't it?
I don't know. Something happens. Maybe Loki gets exiled to Earth instead.
I'm pretty sure, there's an episode. I think that might be episode 3. Loki comes to Earth. So, that might be him getting banished instead of Thor.
Well, that was always my interesting thing. See, I had that what if in my head years ago. No. That what if Odin got fed up with Loki and sent Loki to be a mortal on Earth. And I always thought, what would be the Loki? He said, he'll be a lawyer who stutters. He won't be a physician who's lame. He'll be a lawyer who stutters. He'd be a great lawyer, but he would have a real hard time talking because Loki's power is lying. Mm-hmm. But if he stutters, he can't spin a good web. And so he's going to have the truth on his side. He's going to have to be a good lawyer. And he's going to have to know the law and be able to present his brief. And yes, when he makes the arguments, it's going to be a little harder, but the fact of the matter is he's going to be a good lawyer. And that was my theory of how I would do what if Loki was sent to Earth and made humble. And so if you have a humbled Loki in this universe, that helps to form the Avenger when Party Thor decides to team up with Thanos. Says, yeah, let's get us some Infinity Stones. We'll rule the galaxy.
Oh, hey, not to interrupt your role, but do you want me to read the Ray feedback? Ray sent us an email.
Yes, we have emails. Do we have any voicemails or just emails?
No, just the one email from Ray.
Okay, give it to us, Ray.
Yes.
Our little ray of sunshine.
Our friend Ray from Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast, and To Know Her Is to Fear Her, the Spider-Woman podcast. All right.
Like the Suicide Squad.
That's right. He says,
okay,
hey.
Any others?
He says, hey, Phil and Charlie. Well, I just watched What If Captain Carter became the first Avenger. Where do I start? First off, the animation is a treat to look at. I've heard some people aren't too impressed by it, but for me it hits all the high notes. I've likened the clean-cut and stylish look to Joelle Jones or Elena Casagrande's beautiful art. The big difference here being that the art is kinetic. And boy, is it kinetic! I can't believe how well they've married the comic book art with such realistic movement, but they have, and it's just mesmerizing. The lighting, colors, and textures also add to the impressive result, and if I were to be absolutely picky, the only thing I'd say that brought me out of it from time to time was the mouth movements when talking. That looked a little stiff. A small quibble, but certainly not enough to affect my overall enjoyment of it. With these elements of animation in place, the action sequences were the big winners here. Dare I say, the action scenes far surpassed anything a live-action MCU film or TV show could achieve. Captain Carter was doing things so effortlessly and with such grace, whether it be cannonballing into a fighter jet or taking down 5 men, I get lost for words for how well the action was executed. As for the story, it was solid and based with a great voice cast from all familiar folk. I'd love to see more Captain Carter and more Iron Steve. And the recreations of iconic scenes from Captain America, the First Avenger, was a great self-reference. I can't laud this enough, really. Granted, I don't watch as many animated shows as others, so this sort of thing may be familiar territory. But for me, it seems that Marvel Studios are trailblazing again. Oh, and the fact that What If so seamlessly ties into this phase's big thing of multiverses goes to show again how refined the MCU and Feige are at giving the fans a cohesive and enjoyable product. All the best, Ray.
Great points, Ray. And, I can't disagree in any way. One of the things I really wanted to say was that I really loved when she flips the truck in the beginning. I'm thinking, oh, that's that Wonder Woman flipping the tank scene. But they had her do it. And it's like, but it was cool. And she got, honestly excited by it. And they do an interesting thing here with the idea of, being not seen. And that, as a woman, just being the most capable woman in the world made Peggy not seen. Steve had to be the weakest man in the world. And that's what made him unseen. Yeah. So, a little bit of fun with misogyny there. Beyond that, I do want to say, this was just a fantastic bit that we got from this thing. It is obviously going to build into the cosmology of the larger multiverse, unless the new guy really screws up whatever Feige has been trying to do. But, Feige has made his presence known. So I think that there's stuff that's going to happen in the near future. Maybe it's the guy's going to shoot himself in the foot and say, well, then Feige's fired too.
No.
And then we'll know what happens after this, because I'm sure most of this is already written. But if we're on the tail end, we're on the tail end, and we know that. But good news is that maybe DC's going to rise. Oh, goodness. Do you want to talk our favorite What If episodes?
Yeah.
Or issues?
Sure, yeah.
We've only been on for 36 minutes, but, we don't have to go a full 4 hours tonight.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So, here, why don't you tell me what's one that really impressed you?
Well, I know you liked the first series. A lot of the second series I kind of liked. I mean, I know this original storyline I think has a place in your heart, but I mean, the first one of the second series, what if the Avengers lost the Evolutionary War?
Oh, that's a good one.
Basically, humanity gets evolved, and eventually all the superhumans leave Earth, basically bond with death and eternity, and start like their own universe.
Yeah, which is also kind of disturbing in its own right, given how much emphasis was placed on the similarities between the High Evolutionary and Nazism.
Yeah,
and it's almost like, yeah, but if you just let them win.
And for some reason, they choose Wolverine as like their leader when they go in the space.
None of that made any. That was like a part that really bothered me on it too, because like the least spiritual. I mean, I guess you can argue he's maybe more spiritual. I don't know. Wolverine was an odd choice to me. I would have preferred Storm. I would actually have preferred that they just picked Captain America, but as they said, he is simply now a hyper evolved human.
Yeah, he stayed behind. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what makes him most human. And to be fair, that's sort of that is the thing that stays. Because when they do wind up killing both death and then eternity, it's actually the Earth hive mind that sort of informs the new universe.
Yeah, because the universe kind of goes unstable, doesn't it? But like Earth's like protected behind like a barrier or something. Yeah,
because eventually the humans have continued to become more and more evolved until they bring the universe back into something. I'm not sure. It was neat, though. Oh, yeah. I do like that issue. It is also one of my favorite issues from that second run. The fact of the matter is there are so many good issues of What If, I think it was maybe the third run, which is the one I was going to talk about, is one where they were trying to build a interconnected universe. And in that one, they have Captain America come during the Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
And during the Civil War, he's just this little drummer boy. But in that one, Captain Barnes is like the evil white supremacist, killing everybody. And, he becomes the White Skull. And then you have this constant battle between the descendants of the White Skull and the descendants of Captain America, of Captain of the Americas, which is interesting because we are going to get a Native American Captain America in
United States
the
of Captain
new
America.
United States of Captain America. So maybe there's going to be something there. We're going to have to see what happens. I'm excited about it in some ways. And, maybe that's going to tie into that with that idea of the mystical power of the Americas. And this idea that Captain America, as much as Spider-Man, as much as the Hulk and the Fantastic Four, are tied to these larger cosmic narratives. That they aren't just these folks who happen to be science experiments that went crazily awry, but that the universe needed these things to exist. Mm-hmm. There needs to be a Captain of the Americas. There needs to be those who reach for the stars and those who come from below. There needs to be that balance within the universe. And in that one, we also get that one, the Fantastic Four are the Soviets. And you get the Reed Richards born in that one, born to that Nathaniel Richards who was captured and held behind Soviet lines. That Reed Richards comes and builds his ship, and with his best friend Peter Rasputin, who becomes the Colossus, but the mutations are weighing down on him as he becomes more and more metallic. So there are so many different interweavings of these stories, and all of that goes back to What If. Because if you go all the way back to What If number 6, what if the Fantastic Four all had different powers? It's not loading right now. That's where we start getting this idea of how the spirit of who you are informed. Up there, he actually owns it in a paper copy. He just knew I was going to. He even had it ready. He's like, "Yeah, that's one Charlie's going to talk about." And that written by, I want to say it's by apparently Hoberg and Craig, and in that one, that's where you get this idea that who you are as a being informs the powers you get when you get exposed to the cosmic radiation.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that Byrne would build on later on. And so much informs the building of the cosmology of the Marvel Universe that we're going to get. And I think that's one of the best things about What If, is it gives us this idea of you can sort of go completely out of the way, create an idea about the universe, and then years later someone can say, well, that was an interesting idea they had. How could we integrate that idea that I really liked into the larger Marvel Universe? We don't have to follow that What If, but we can say the things that informed that What If can inform our universe as well. And I think that goes into what Byrne did with the Fantastic Four, that I think Ewing is doing in The Incredible Hulk, which, ironically, before that, Byrne had done in She-Hulk. So, Byrne's influence throughout the Marvel Universe is pretty well felt.
Yeah.
I think, and I think that's a great aspect of the story.
They always play with that theme, because issue 11 of the second series, what if they had all gotten the same power? They did 4 short stories, which, and only one of them really turns out well.
Yeah. My favorite one in that is the one where they all get stretchy powers.
Yeah, and Ben and Sue are like, yeah, we don't want no part of this, and they just go off to live a normal life. Yeah, Reed's just, throws himself into scientific work, and Johnny becomes an entertainer called Mr. Fantastic.
Which I loved. I love the idea of him being like, woo, look at that. Take that, Mr. Spider-Man, Man of Spiders. Can you do this? Woo, 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 woo. Who's cool now?
Yeah, I know.
Because there's going to be letters like, I hear he can stretch any body part.
Oh, my.
Oh, my.
But yeah, then they all become things, and for some reason, Sue gets turned into the Man Thing. I don't know what. But yeah, they just go off to live on Monster Island.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah,
because in that one, Reed becomes the Brute, which he does become in another parallel universe. I think
Counter Earth, wasn't it?
Counter Earth or Earth B or Earth A.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one universe. There's one universe where he becomes a thing, and one where he becomes the Brute, where he's like the Grey Hulk. So
he's
and as always, Ben's the one guy who's he's a monster, but he's actually okay. He can actually deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
What monster does Johnny become in that? I forget.
Well, he looks like what Ben originally looked like. That lumpy
he becomes the oatmeal thing.
Yeah,
he becomes oatmeal thing, which was supposed to be dinosaur scales, but no one ever inked Kirby right. And by the time that the guy started drawing him as rocks, everyone said, you know what, the rocks look a lot better than the dinosaur scales, Kirby. So we're going to go with the rocks. And Kirby's like, fine, they're rocks now.
Yeah, so basically, it's hard for Reed to think. And once they get turned into things, they just sneak back to the lab, get in the flying bathtub, and go to Monster Island.
Yeah, as you do. Here's a great one that eventually went on to influence the modern Marvel Universe. What if the Avengers had formed in the 1950s?
Oh, yeah.
With our good friend Jimmy Woo, and our good friend Venus, and our very good friend Marvel Boy, first defender of the universe of the universe with his quantum bands. That was the Uranian Quantum Boy. Because one thing you need to protect the universe is Uranus. Okay, I'm sorry. Just after that was 9. Number 10 is what if Jane Foster had found the hammer of Thor?
What a ridiculous concept! That would never happen.
Exactly. One of my favorites, though, is what if the original Marvel bullpen had become the Fantastic Four?
Oh, nice.
And of course, Stan Lee is Mr. Fantastic. I forget who was Johnny Storm in that? Was it Steve Ditko? I don't know. But, this is the one that informs King. And you wouldn't know it when you first read it. But, what if Sergeant Fury had fought World War II in space?
Oh my.
Yes. Well, the whole premise of that, what if number 14, was that what if Sergeant Fury existed in a universe in which Leonardo da Vinci had actually built all of his amazing inventions during the Renaissance, and human technological advancement had just accelerated. And by the time of the American Revolution, they actually have had, it's actually the Lunar Revolution because the people of the moon decide to rebel against Earth and form their own government, and then they fight space Nazis, as you do in a World War II. But what's interesting about that is that same premise gets played out in a Fantastic Four when we first meet Nathaniel Richards, who had built the time machine that Kang eventually finds. He's the ancestor, but it actually sends you to another dimension, not back in time as he had intended. And that's how he goes to that Nick Fury world. But in this world, it's one where instead of being defeated, the colonists of the moon blow up the moon and rain death upon all of the earth for 1,000 years when Nathaniel Richards shows up and conquers the world. So it's all connected, Phil. That's what I'm trying to say. And at the very end of that, again, John Byrne wrote all of this. Honestly, this guy needs to be getting more than $5,000 from the MC right now. But I don't hear him complaining. So maybe there's something to playing the game. I don't know. And maybe they're not as overt. I'm sure John Burns is sitting there going, oh yeah, I see what you're doing, Feige. I'm not going to complain about it because I've made my bones and I'm okay with it. I want to live in Canada and just... Does he still write comic books? Does John Byrne still write? Or is he just retired now?
He might write, but I don't know if he, if he does, it's probably for like somebody other than Marvel and DC.
Yeah, I mean, I think he invested well, probably, if he's still alive. I don't know.
Or I'm trying to, did he ever write any like novels and stuff?
He probably did. He probably wrote a lot of things. Probably way more than I know. Probably stuff I've read and loved. And just don't know that he wrote it because I don't always know who the writer is.
Yeah.
Because you have to write it on that splash page. If they don't write it on the splash page, I almost never know. That's why I know like who writes Star Trek novels, because they put it on the cover in a big, bold thing. But not so bold that you don't know it's a Star Trek novel. Because, those Shatner novels, you think the universe is called Shatner, but it's actually called one of the other things, Tech Wars or something. But that's why that doesn't get adapted as well, because because people remember Shatner, not the universe. You have to have that balance between the universe you create and the creatives who create it. Alrighty.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking to see,
You know what's interesting about what's not on Marvel Universe? And this is one of these things, and I actually just figured out why. Issue 13 of the original What If, and I believe it's issue 43. Let me fast forward.
Yeah, it's really weird, because even like the second series, there's like a bunch missing. There's probably more not there than are there.
But 13 and 43 are the two that deal with Conan the Barbarian coming to the 21st century and being stuck in the 21st century. And I realized, do you know why those aren't there?
Is it a rights thing? Or
it would have to be, because even though Conan the Barbarian is now public domain, the stories written before then are still bound up in legal associations with the author's estate. So they can't be republished without paying him.
But I mean, with the animated series, I wonder if they're gonna like start putting more of those on Marvel Unlimited. Well, minus the Conan issues, but they're gonna put the rest of the What Ifs on there.
I mean, I mean, they have a lot here. But yeah, I would imagine anything that's not here is mostly for rights issues. Oh, but I have to talk about the best one. My favorite is number 44.
Ooh.
They did this later. It's not as good later in the second series because they do it like it's not the 80s. What if Captain America were revived today? And that really awesome. See, so for those who don't know, this like watercolor cover, that's what an Alex Ross cover was back in the day. That was the cover you wanted, that cool watercolor cover. Because you say that there was like several of them at the time. They came very big in the 80s, man. Little line drawings. And that's the one where Cap doesn't get found by the Avengers, because in that one, Namor doesn't throw him into the water. He stays which is something they've come back to again and again.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of what ifs
about where everyone knows where Captain America was.
There's a bunch of what ifs where it's like either it's part of the main plot or not, but it's like, oh yeah, Namor never finds Captain America, so.
Well, I mean, but that was one of the plot lines in the recent Heroes Reborn plot saga. Mm-hmm. That was a plot line in the Marvel 8 saga about how if Namor doesn't find Captain America, someone else can take Captain America's place or something else happens. And in this universe, Namor doesn't find him. He gets awakened on a submarine by some subs a few years later, basically in the 80s, which was then the modern times, not the ancient past as it is now. And that's where we find out that actually someone in the 60s revived, just like they did in the regular Marvel universe, revives William Burnside's, but without another captain to fight him. He becomes captain. He returns as Captain America, and then just like in regular Captain America universe, someone decides to have him become president. Though in that one, those guys were Nazis because you realize that they are actually the Secret Empire, which isn't the case in the classic What If. What if Captain America became president? So, whole other bag of hammers, but still, it all goes around and comes around, and that's what makes What If great. Any final thoughts, Philip? Anything you want to get to before we wrap this up?
No, it's just interesting that one of the ones from the second series, number 76, what if Peter Parker had to destroy Spider-Man? I'll give you one hint. Who gets bitten instead of Peter Parker to get this?
Flash Thompson.
Exactly, yes. And
he doesn't become Captain Spider and becomes a hero because he's inspired by the goodness.
No, he
Captain
basically
America.
is a bully and goes on a rampage, and Peter has to build mechanical spider arms and other gadgets to
Steel Spider.
And in that universe, Jameson takes him under his wing. He's like, "Oh yeah, kid, you're gonna do great thing," Jameson's.
Oh yeah, I think that's from that series that was all of the connected universe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might have been. I think he might have been one of them where he's the Steel Spider, and yeah, so that's cool. There's so many things that are just awesome in What If universes. Did I mention Rebecca Barnes? I mentioned Rebecca Barnes as I wanted that scene in the 40s.
Yeah.
But what I think we're going to get is when we get to the future.
Yeah.
When we get back to Peggy, we're going to meet Rebecca Barnes, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, my granddad talked about you all the time.
That's what I was waiting for, the scene with, Peggy comes out and there's it's old Steve laying in bed,
We may get to that, or that's the other thing, is we may get Cyborg Steve eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, she's coming, and it's like, as parts of him fail, that's the thing, because he was always sickly.
Yeah.
So as he's going, I will bet you parts of him are going to fail much sooner, and by the time he's running S.H.I.E.L.D., I bet you're going to get Deathlock Steve.
And since the rules were reversed, does he start S.H.I.E.L.D.? Does he create S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I imagine so. I imagine he's the guy that Howard's going to call. Says, who should run S.H.I.E.L.D.? Not another soldier. But we can have Dum Dum and Barnes here.
A guy with a
Steve,
conscience, yeah.
I want you running this, And maybe it's because he's gotten too weak to be in the field. Says, but you know what you can do? Your mind's still sharp. Here's what you should do. And that one, Old Man Steve is
you're a
the
strategist,
director of S.H.I.E.L.D..
yeah.
And like I said, I would love to see Steve head in a jar in this whole, however they have to do it,
Mm-hmm.
Or they could just have him just be like 200-year-old Old Man Steve just kept alive by Peggy's blood, It's good because I was almost out of your blood, Peggy.
And I didn't know if the scene would make any sense in that universe, but I just wanted that endgame scene of her picking up that hammer and just beating on Thanos.
We may get it. Don't count it out yet, Philip. She's still here. She's going to be sticking around. They have said as much. And Hallie Atwell is happy to have the work. And if that uncredited, what do you mean, background scene in Loki, is anything to be done? Because we still don't know who that actress is.
Yeah.
That's like a weird thing that for something to be that big of an Easter egg, and no actress has come forward to say that was me. No actress has been said that this is it. It's not listed on IMDb. No one knows who this actress is, who looks like Hallie Atwell.
Uh-huh.
It is a thing. This is why I'm saying there are wheels within wheels and gears within gears. There is something going on here, Philip. And what it's going to be, we will know when we know. All right, Philip. If someone would like to talk to us about what might be, how can they ponder that what if to you?
Well, you can always be like Ray and email us capesandlunatics@gmail.com or even call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And you can find links to all of our social medias, links to the YouTube channel. You can watch this video, links to the Patreon, links to merch at Linktree, linktr.ee/capesandlunatics.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet things, even though I'll probably forget to do that, like Stargirl, which I think I premiered last night. And because of many, many, many things, I had to do laundry, actually, I did not get that done. So, at Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsscr. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Maz. When I do have that chance, I don't have to do laundry, and it's a Tuesday, and it all works out again. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we're glad that you connected with us. Please do us a favor and super connect with us again. Good night.
Good night.
Sorry I took the call in the middle of the show.
What?
Said sorry I took the call in the middle of the show.
That's all right.
That person would not stop if I didn't take the call.
What if Charlie Esser didn't take the call?
What if we had just had a show that continued on and was 15 minutes shorter? Might have been interesting.
Interesting.
Or maybe we would have forgotten that crucial thing that set the universe on the direction it was supposed to be. Enough said.